In the peaceful village of Okwalu, there was a very popular hair salon owned by a young, beautiful, and talented woman called Adis. Her salon was the most talked about place in the village and nearby towns. Why? Because Adis could braid any hairstyle in under 1 hour, no matter how long or difficult the style was. People came from far and near just to get their hair done by her. Her hands were so fast, so gentle, and so perfect that even the elders called her Adis Nwani Oka Gold, which means Adis the woman with golden hands. But there was something very strange about her salon. If you wanted Adis to braid your hair, you must agree to one strict rule: no mirrors. No reflective items. Not even shiny beads. If you broke this rule, she would not touch your hair. Nobody understood why, but everyone who visited respected it, because they wanted that perfect hairstyle. At the front of our salon, there was even a big wooden sign that said, "If you have a mirror, go back home. This is your final warning." Some people whispered about her. Some said she was hiding a spiritual secret, others believed it was just a weird habit. But nobody had proof. Still, people kept coming because Adis' hands worked miracles on their hair. One afternoon, a young woman named Kamsi arrived from the neighboring village of Odigu. She had heard of Adis' magic fingers and came prepared with her best hairstyle idea. But Kamsi had not heard about the no mirror rule. As she entered the salon, Adis greeted her kindly but firmly said, "Before you sit, please show me your bag. We don't allow mirrors or anything shiny here." Kamsi was shocked. "But why? How will I know if you're doing my hair well?" Adis smiled politely and replied, "If you cannot trust me, you can go elsewhere. This is my rule. It's for your own good." Kamsi, curious and a little stubborn, agreed to stay, but deep in her heart, she wanted to know the truth. She decided she would come back again and find out why Adis was so afraid of mirrors. That night, Kamsi could not sleep. She kept asking herself, what is she hiding? Why would someone ban mirrors in a hair salon? Could it be that something evil happens when she sees her reflection? And just like that, the fire of curiosity started burning inside her. The next morning, Kamsi woke up determined. She had braided her hair the day before, but she wasn't satisfied. Not because the hair wasn't fine, though no, it was perfect. Too perfect. And that was the problem. How can someone braid so fast? So neat. So clean. Without looking into a mirror, she whispered to herself as she tightened her wrapper and stepped outside her room. As she walked around the village of Okwalu, she heard women talking about Adis. "Her hands are faster than lightning," one said. "I even felt like I was floating when she touched my head," another added. Kamsi's ears stood like an antenna. She was hearing too many strange things. Her curiosity doubled. That afternoon, Kamsi returned to Adis' salon, but this time, she hid a tiny round mirror in the lining of her wrapper. She didn't plan to use it carelessly. She just wanted to take a quick look when Adis was busy, to see what made her so fast. When she entered, Adis smiled warmly. "Oh, my dear Kamsi. You are back so soon. Do you want another style?" Kamsi laughed nervously and nodded. "Yes, please. I want something even more special this time. Something that will make my friends scream when they see me." Adis chuckled. "You've come to the right place." She checked Kamsi's bag again, as usual. Then she waved her to sit down. As Adis started parting Kamsi's hair, her fingers danced like a magician. Left, right, twist, turn. Kamsi could feel her head becoming lighter and lighter. It was as if the braids were tying themselves. "This is not normal," Kamsi whispered in her mind. She slowly slid her hand into the fold of her wrapper and brought out the tiny mirror. It was barely the size of her palm. Just a small peek, she told herself. But just as she raised it a little to glance at Adis through the mirror, something strange happened. Adis suddenly froze. Her fingers stopped moving. Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment, Kamsi saw something in the mirror she could never forget. Adi's reflection was not hers. In the mirror, Kamsi saw a tall dark shadow braiding the hair instead, not Adi's. The shadow had no face, no eyes, just long fingers moving fast like a snake. Kamsi's heart jumped. She quickly dropped the mirror into her lap and covered it with her wrapper. Adis blinked, shook her head slightly, then smiled as if nothing happened. "Are you okay?" Adis asked, looking straight into Kamsi's eyes. Kamsi nodded quickly, too shocked to speak. Suddenly, Adis stood and went outside to attend to another customer. Kamsi breathed heavily. Her heart beat like the village drum. What did I just see? What was that thing? Is Adis possessed? Dear viewer, what would you do if you were in Kamsi's shoes? Would you run away? Would you tell the village? Or would you go and search for the truth behind the shadow you saw? Before we continue, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please, I beg you, don't miss out on stories like this. Click that subscribe button now so you'll be the first to know what Kamsi will do next. This story is just getting deeper, darker, and more dangerous. Back in her compound, Kamsi couldn't eat. She sat quietly under a mango tree, her face pale. She knew she had to do something, but she couldn't do it alone. That night, Kamsi made a decision. She would go and meet the oldest woman in the village of Okpro, the next village known for elders who saw beyond the physical. Maybe they could help her understand what she saw. Because now she knew, Adis was not the one braiding the hair. Something else was. By the time the cock crowed the next morning, Kamsi was already on the bush path leading to Okpro village. The same question kept ringing in her head: what was that thing inside the mirror? What spirit is inside Adis' salon? The journey took almost an hour on foot. The sun had just begun to rise, casting golden light over the palm trees. Birds chirped, and the air smelled like wet earth after a long night of thinking and fear. When she got to Okpro, Kamsi asked around for a woman called Mama Ogochi, a respected elder known for seeing beyond the physical. People said she had once chased away a spirit from a shrine just by using holy water and prayer. Kamsi found her inside a small compound with walls made of red clay and a roof of rusted zinc. The old woman sat outside grinding pepper on a stone. "Good morning, Mama," Kamsi said, bowing. Mama Ogochi looked up, her face full of wrinkles but her eyes sharp and deep like a river. "You have seen something, haven't you?" she said before Kamsi could even speak. Kamsi's mouth dropped open. "Why yes, Mama. I saw something inside a mirror. At Adis' salon." Mama Ogochi dropped her grinding stone. "Come and sit, my child. This one is not ordinary." Kamsi sat on the small bench beside her and told the old woman everything: Adis' speed, the mirror rule, the faceless shadow, the freezing moment, everything. The old woman listened without blinking. When Kamsi finished, Mama Ogochi looked into the sky for a moment and then nodded slowly. "What you saw is called Ojoninya, the spirit of the faceless servant. It is an ancient spirit used by some people to gain speed, beauty, and power. But it always comes with a heavy price." Kamsi's hands trembled. "So Adis is not the one doing the hair?" "She is. But not alone," Mama Ogochi replied. "The spirit is bonded to her. It uses her body but hides behind her reflection. That's why she bangs mirrors. If the spirit sees itself in a mirror while walking, it becomes violent, and might even kill the person sitting." Kamsi gasped. "Then that means I was in danger." "Yes, my child. And now, because you saw it, the spirit will know you're a threat. You must act fast." Kamsi felt like running. Her heart beat loudly. "Mama, what can we do? I don't want Adis to be hurt. I want to help her." Mama Ogochi smiled softly. "Then you have a pure heart. We must trap the spirit. I will give you a special calabash mirror. It is covered with sacred symbols. If you can place it in the salon while Addis is braiding hair, the spirit will be drawn to its own reflection and get confused. That is when you must smash the mirror and speak the cleansing words I will teach you. Kamsi swallowed hard. And what will happen to Addis? If her soul is strong, she will be freed. If not, Mama Ogochi paused. Let's hope her soul is strong. That night, Kamsi didn't return to Okwalu. She stayed with Mama Ogochi, learning the ancient words and practicing how to use the mirror trap. The calabash mirror was beautiful but strange. Its surface was like water, moving even when still. As Kamsi slept, a strong wind blew through the window. She woke up and looked around. The mirror was glowing softly on the table. Then she heard a whisper, "You saw me. I saw you too." She jumped out of bed, her heart racing. The spirit knows. It's watching me. The morning sun rose slowly over Okporo as Kamsi tied the calabash mirror in a raffia bag, making sure it was tightly secured. Mama Ogochi stood beside her, tying red and white threads around her wrist. "This is for protection," the old woman said. "If the spirit tries to enter you, this thread will fight it off, but only if your heart is clean." Kamsi nodded, trying to hide the fear in her eyes. Her legs trembled slightly as she rose. "Go now," Mama Ogochi said gently, "but remember, the spirit will know the moment you step into that salon. You must act fast. Trust yourself." Kamsi left without looking back. By the time she reached Okwalu village, the market was already buzzing with people. Women selling okra and garden eggs shouted prices, children played with sticks, and the smell of roasted yam filled the air. But Kamsi had no time for greetings or smiles. She headed straight for Addis' salon. Inside, Addis was already braiding a woman's hair, her hands dancing like usual. She looked up and smiled. "Oh, my fine customer is back again," she said, grinning. "Yes. I wanted another style," Kamsi replied calmly, forcing a smile. "You like coming back quickly, oh?" Addis teased. Kamsi laughed a little, then looked around. The salon was full, 3 women waiting, 1 sitting, and 2 young girls chatting in the corner. This was going to be harder than she thought. She sat quietly and placed her bag beside her. Addis came to her after finishing the woman in front. As she combed Kamsi's hair and began braiding, the same feeling returned. Her hands felt too fast, too light. Something was not normal. Kamsi glanced to her side. The moment was right. She quietly opened her bag, removed the calabash mirror, and placed it on the floor, face up, covered slightly with a wrapper. She whispered the ancient words Mama Ogochi had taught her. "Enchita onyamio. Kochi onwi gi. Kuchi gi ike." Spirit that hides behind the face, reveal yourself. Trap yourself in your power. Suddenly, the air shifted. A sharp cold breeze blew through the salon, though the doors were closed. The oil lamp on the wall flickered wildly. The other women looked up in confusion. Addis froze again. Her hands stopped. She stared forward, then slowly turned to look at the calabash mirror. Her eyes widened, and her lips trembled. "Kamsi," she said in a broken voice. "What have you done?" But Kamsi didn't answer. She was focused. The mirror surface rippled, and a dark smoke began to rise from Addis' back, like mist from boiling water. The spirit was reacting. Then, boom! A loud bang echoed. The lamp crashed to the ground. The customers screamed and ran out of the salon, some without their slippers. Kamsi stood, her hands shaking. The calabash mirror began to glow, not with light, but with something strange and blue-black in color. Then it appeared. A faceless figure, tall and thin, with hands like ropes and a body like smoke, rose behind Addis. It turned to face Kamsi, though it had no face, and let out a low growl that sounded like 1,000 voices mixed together. Adis fell to her knees, her eyes rolling back. Her voice was low and cracking. "Help me." Kamsi began to cry. She was scared, but she couldn't run now. She opened her mouth to say the final words to trap the spirit, but the spirit raised its hand, and wind blasted through the salon, knocking over stools and tables. Kamsi was thrown backward. The mirror was starting to crack. "If it breaks before the words are finished, the spirit will escape forever," Kamsi remembered. She got up slowly, covered in dust, and crawled toward the mirror. "Enchita onyamio. Kochi onwiji." Her voice shook. The spirit screamed. Suddenly, Adis screamed too, but this time, in two voices at once. One was her voice, and the other, something dark and ancient. The air inside the salon had become ice cold, like harmattan in the heart of rainy season. Adis knelt on the ground, shaking violently as her eyes turned pure white. The spirit behind her, tall, black, faceless, raised both of its smoky arms as if to strike Kamsi. But Kamsi didn't move. She was too scared to move, too determined to give up. The calabash mirror on the ground began to crack, lines spreading like spider webs across its glowing surface. It pulsed like a heartbeat, as if it too was alive and afraid. Kamsi knelt beside the mirror. Her hands shook as she pressed her palm on it and shouted the ancient words, "Kochi onwiji." Kochi. Kochi. The wind howled louder. The faceless spirit screeched. The sound was like hundreds of crying babies mixed with a lion's roar. Women from the market had gathered outside the salon, watching from a distance in fear, whispering prayers and shielding their eyes. Suddenly, Adis screamed. It was a scream so loud and so painful that birds flew out of the nearby trees. Her body lifted off the ground and floated above the mirror. "Kamsi," she cried again, "please. Don't let it win." Kamsi closed her eyes, clenched her fist, and shouted the final phrase Mama Ogochi had taught her, "Ndo Adis, sa oku. Oni iro e, la enazu." Life of Adis, answer the call. Enemy spirit, return backward. And then, the mirror exploded into a burst of blue and white light. The spirit shrieked and twisted violently, sucked into the fragments of the mirror like water being drained. Adis dropped heavily to the floor. Her body was still. "Adis!" Kamsi cried, rushing to her side. There was no movement. No breath. Outside the salon, the market women gasped in silence. Then, she coughed. Just one cough, then a second, and then her eyes opened. This time, they were no longer white, they were warm, brown, and full of confusion. Where am I?" Adis whispered. "You're free," Kamsi said through tears, holding her hand tightly. "You're free now." Adis blinked, trying to sit up. "Free? From what?" Kamsi looked at the cracked mirror pieces on the floor, now dull and cold. "You don't remember?" Adis shook her head slowly. "The last thing I remember was braiding my first hair years ago." Kamsi realized the truth. The spirit must have possessed her so deeply that it erased her memory, controlling her body like a puppet, hiding behind her for years. Outside, the villagers began to enter slowly, afraid but curious. One of the women knelt down beside Adis. "You're alive," she whispered. Another woman added, "That mirror rule, now we understand." Adis looked at them in confusion. "Mirror rule? What mirror rule?" Kamsi turned to the crowd. "She doesn't remember," she said. "She didn't know, all these years, she was under something." Someone asked, "Then how was she braiding so fast?" Kamsi stood, her eyes still red. It wasn't her. The salon was silent. Then one of the children who used to watch Adis braid hair every weekend whispered, "Does that mean the shadow is gone?" Everyone turned to Kamsi, waiting for her answer. Kamsi looked down at the broken mirror shards. "I don't know," she said. "I think so. But spirits are tricky. Just then, one of the broken pieces twitched. Only Kamsi saw it. The salon was quiet for a long time. The only sound was the shaky breathing of Addis, as she leaned weakly against the wall, covered in dust and sweat. Kamsi sat beside her, holding her gently, her eyes still watching the tiny shard of the mirror that had twitched moments earlier. Was it just the wind? Or was the spirit still alive inside one of the broken pieces? Kamsi didn't say anything. She just stared at it. The villagers began to whisper amongst themselves. Should we call the elders? Maybe we should burn the mirror pieces. Or take them to the shrine. But Mama Ogochi's words echoed in Kamsi's mind. If the spirit sees its reflection, it becomes confused, but it may also split into many pieces to escape death. That meant if even one shard held part of the spirit, it could try to regrow, like a wounded snake. Suddenly, Addis gripped Kamsi's arm. I'm cold, she whispered. And I feel empty inside. Like something was taken out of me. Kamsi looked at her, unsure how much to say. You were possessed, Addis. But not anymore, Addis' lips trembled. Possessed? By what? Kamsi hesitated. A spirit. It's been using your body to braid hair. That's why you could braid so fast. That's why you burned mirrors. Addis shook her head slowly, tears filling her eyes. So all this time, it wasn't me. Kamsi nodded. But it's not your fault. Your heart is clean. You fought back when it mattered. The crowd outside began to chant softly. Some praised Kamsi, calling her brave daughter, the one who faced the shadow, and others called her Ogochi's child, a nickname for those protected by strong elders. But Kamsi's eyes were still fixed on that shard. She rose slowly, walked to it, and bent down. The shard looked ordinary now. Small. Harmless. But when she touched it with her finger, she felt a strange tingle in her chest, like a chill running through her blood. She gasped and pulled her hand back. It's not over. She quickly grabbed a small rag, picked up the shard without touching it directly, and wrapped it tightly. Nobody must touch this, she warned the crowd. Not even the tip. It's dangerous. One of the women asked, but what will you do with it? Kamsi looked up at them. I will take it back to Mama Ogochi. She will know what to do. Addis looked frightened again. Kamsi, what if it comes back? Kamsi reached for her hand. Then I'll fight it again. Suddenly, a small girl, no more than 7, stepped forward from the crowd. Her name was Chinoza, one of the children who used to sweep Addis' salon for small money. She pointed to the mirror shard in Kamsi's hand and said softly, It spoke to me, when I was waiting here yesterday. Kamsi's heart stopped. What did it say? Chinoza replied with wide, innocent eyes, It said, it likes me. The crowd went silent. Even the leaves on the tree stopped moving for a moment. A child. The spirit was now whispering to a little girl. Kamsi slowly knelt down in front of Chinoza. The girl's eyes were wide and honest, her lips trembling a little. Chinoza, Kamsi said softly, what did it say to you exactly? Chinoza blinked, thinking hard. It said, You're just like her. I asked it, who is her, and it said, the one before. The one with the strong hands. Kamsi's breath caught in her throat. The spirit had recognized something in Chinoza, maybe her potential, her innocence, or the hunger for love or attention. Spirits like that preyed on the weak, the curious, and the unnoticed. And Chinoza, as small and sweet as she was, had always been quiet, always watching Addis braid hair. Always sweeping the floor silently, never asking for anything. Kamsi glanced at the wrapped shard in her palm. It twitched again, and Chinoza flinched. It's calling me again, she whispered. Kamsi stood up sharply. No one is allowed near this child, she said, turning to the villagers. We must protect her. The spirit is looking for a new host. Adis, still weak, struggled to rise. Me, then Chinoza. Kamsi, this spirit doesn't want to leave this salon. Kamsi's heart pounded. It's because the salon is its feeding ground. All the women who come here, all the hair it touches, it has been drawing strength. She turned to the villagers. We must burn the salon down. Gasps echoed through the crowd. No, someone shouted. This salon brings us joy. It's where we get our braids done, another cried. It's our gathering place. But Kamsi raised her voice. Would you rather it takes your children next? That silenced them. Adis closed her eyes, tears falling down her cheeks. Kamsi, burn it. Let the spirit have nothing to return to. Kamsi nodded. But not yet. First, I must get Chinoze to safety. And the shard must be sealed. She turned to Mama Ugochi's apprentice, who had arrived during the commotion, a strong, quiet woman named Nkem. She was sent earlier by Mama Ugochi when she felt something dark moving in the air. Nkem, Kamsi said, we need to take Chinoze to Mama. And the shard too. Nkem nodded. I have the sealing pouch. From her wrapper, Nkem brought out a thick brown pouch with Nsibidi symbols and small feathers tied around it. She opened it carefully, and Kamsi dropped the shard inside. Instantly, the wind died down. The air became warmer. Even the salon seemed quieter. But Chinoza looked at the pouch and whispered, it's still talking, but now it's angry. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange and red, Kamsi, Nkem, and Chinoza walked along the forest path back to Okporo village. Chinoza held Kamsi's hand tightly. Auntie Kamsi, she whispered, do you think it will follow me? Kamsi looked down at her. No. Not if we get to Mama Ugochi in time. But even as she said those words, Kamsi's heart was unsure. Because she could still feel a faint hum in the pouch. And somewhere deep in the forest, a black bird flew over their heads, watching. By the time Kamsi, Nkem, and Chinoza reached Okporo village, the night sky had fully fallen. The stars blinked quietly above, and the air smelled of wood smoke and wet soil. The journey had been long, and though Chinoza was just a little girl, she had not complained once. She simply held tightly to Kamsi's hand. At the gate of Mama Ugochi's compound, a small oil lamp flickered beside the entrance. As they stepped in, Mama was already waiting, seated in her woven chair, her wrapper tied tight, her cane resting beside her. Without saying a word, Mama Ugochi stretched her hand toward Nkem, who immediately passed her the sealed pouch. Mama took it, held it to her chest, and closed her eyes. Silence. Then, she opened her eyes and whispered, it has split. Kamsi's eyes widened. Split? What do you mean? Mama Ugochi sighed. When the mirror broke, the spirit scattered. You caught the largest piece, but not all of it. You mean, more parts of the spirit are still out there? Mama nodded slowly. Yes. Like fire falling on dry grass. It jumped. It spread. Some of it is still inside the salon. And one piece entered someone. Kamsi's heart skipped. Who? Mama Ugochi turned slowly to Chinoza. The spirit likes her. She has a gift. A very old gift, one even her parents don't know about. Chinoza looked up at Mama, eyes wide. A gift. Mama knelt slowly and placed her wrinkled hand on the girl's forehead. You can hear spirits, child. You don't know it yet, but you were born under the moon that listens, a very rare thing. It is both a gift and a danger. Nkem stepped forward. So what do we do now? Mama Ugochi looked at all of them, her face suddenly tired. We prepare. A great cleansing must happen. Not just for Adi's salon, but for the entire village of Okwalu. Why? Kamsi asked. Mama's voice dropped lower, almost to a whisper. Because that spirit wasn't just feeding on hair. It was feeding on memories, identity, and innocence. That's why people loved how they looked afterward. They felt lighter, happier, but they didn't know part of them was being taken. Kamsi's face paled. So everyone who got their hair done has a piece of that spirit's touch in them, Mama finished. Some stronger than others. She rose slowly, went into her hut, and returned with a long staff made from palm wood, carved with sacred symbols and small bells tied around it. We begin the calling back, a ceremony to call back what the spirit took. Then she turned to Chinoza. But the spirit is already whispering in your dreams, isn't it? Chinoza nodded slowly. It said, I'm its new sister. Kamsi gasped. Mama held Chinoza close. You are not its sister, my child. You are a child of light. She looked at Kamsi. We must act now. Tomorrow, at the full moon, we return to the salon. All of us. With the villagers. With song. With fire. And with truth. Because if we don't stop it completely, the spirit won't just want one girl. She paused. It will want every girl. The moon rose full and bright above the village of Okwalu, casting a soft silver glow across the rooftops and treetops. The entire village was gathered at the village square, dressed in vibrant African wrappers, red beads, white chalk marks, and holding palm fronds, brooms, or calabashes filled with river water. In the center of the crowd stood Mama Ugochi, dressed in full spiritual regalia, her staff in one hand, a bell in the other. Beside her stood Kamsi, Nkem, and little Chinoza, who had her hair tied in white cloth, her tiny face painted with white lines for protection. Adi stood among them too, holding a burning torch, her face solemn but strong. Mama Ugochi raised her voice, tonight, we take back what was stolen. Our joy. Our memory. Our innocence. Our truth. The villagers cheered. Drums began to beat. Then, they marched from the square to Adi's salon, which now stood dark and broken, its roof half fallen, its walls blackened with soot from the spiritual battle. When they arrived, Mama Ugochi instructed, form a circle. Nobody must break it. She placed the sealed pouch with the spirit's shard at the salon center, then poured holy oil around it in a wide ring. Kamsi stepped forward, holding Chinoza's hand. Will it come out again? The girl asked. It might try, Kamsi replied, kneeling beside her. But you are not its sister. You are your own. Mama Ugochi began chanting. Ani Airo E, La Enazu. Ani Airo E, La Enazu. The villagers repeated it in rhythm. The drums grew louder. The fire torches danced in the wind. Then suddenly, the shard began to glow again. It cracked. It hissed. Then, a dark smoke rose from it like a snake rising from a basket. The faceless spirit appeared again, but this time, smaller, weaker, and struggling. It floated above the fire, screaming, reaching for Chinoza. But the circle held strong. No one moved. They kept chanting. Chinoza stood still. Brave. You are not welcome here. Mama Ugochi shouted. Return to where you came from. Then Adi stepped forward, holding her torch high. I release you, she said, her voice shaking. You have no power over me anymore. She threw her torch into the salon. Whoosh! The salon burst into flames. The villagers gasped, but Mama Ugochi raised her staff high and struck the ground. Pochi Gi Ike. The spirit screamed one last time, a long, horrible wail, then vanished into ash. The mirror shard cracked fully and turned into dust. Silence. Then birds began to chirp again. The wind calmed. Chinoza fell into Kamsi's arms, tears running down her face. It's gone, she whispered. I can't hear it anymore. Mama Ugochi smiled and nodded. And it will never return. Days later, the villagers gathered again, but this time, for a celebration. A new salon was being built. This one was open, joyful, and bright. Mirrors lined the walls. Laughter filled the air. Adi smiled again, truly smiled, for the first time in years. Kamsi, now called Edemio, daughter of spirit, was honored by the village. Chinoza became her spiritual daughter, loved and watched over by everyone. And as they danced under the evening sun, Mama Ogochi looked on and whispered, "Let this be a village that remembers. Because when we forget, spirits return." Dear viewer, you've just watched a story that reminds us of one simple truth: not everything strange is foolish, and not every tradition is just old talk. Some rules protect us. Some stories are warnings. Some people, like Kamsi, are born to remind us. If this story touched you, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe. Let's build a community that remembers who we are, and protects the ones who don't yet understand the dangers hiding in silence. Click that subscribe button now. And never ignore a whisper again. We'll see you in the next story. Thank you for watching.